Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 246. Today I'm going to talk about Relic. Relic was a game that was released last year in 2013 from Fantasy Flight Games, and it plays 2 to 4 players. Now, if you are familiar with a game called Talisman, it is basically exactly like that game in a lot of ways. It does take some enhancements and refinements to that basic system of Talisman and makes it a whole lot better. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of spoil it up front here. This is not a game I expected to like at all. Basically picked this up in a local shop in the mall here that I don't visit very often. It's not kind of my go-to shop, but I do visit them from time to time, and picked it up and played it with my son, and we had a blast with it. And then I've also taken it out to my game group and played it with them. So before I spoil too much of the review part of it, let me go in and tell you how it works and all that good stuff, and then I'll come back and tell you more about why I like it. So here you have a really busy board. Now, you may not be able to actually make this out, I think, but you've got these spaces here that you're going to be moving your character around, and you've got a little outside area, and then sort of a middle area, and then a central area. Basically, you're going to be traveling with your character around the outside area several times, and then maybe working your way into the central area, and then into this, dead center area. I just want to give you a quick look and sort of zoom in on some of the artwork here. It's really nice. This is sort of the key spot of the game here, this warp rift, and there's this guardian of the rift here. In all the scenarios, you're basically trying to get a relic, and then that'll let you pass in through here, and then you're going to get into these little areas where you've got to do some different tests and things. But I really just want to kind of show you the art up close, because I'm going to start covering this stuff up with cards and things here in a second. But they are very distinctive, and they have sort of a personality, each of these locations, after you've been to them a few times, after you played the game a few times. You can see a lot of different things that are going to come out of them, and different characteristics that they're going to have. And the artwork is really nice, and I just want to keep talking here and showing you some of the spaces and things like that. But once you get the board set up at your table, it's easy to tell where the spaces are. But I have seen players actually get confused where they're going, so keep that in mind here. And then another sort of indicative thing about this game is the text on here is actually pretty small. So if we could zoom out a little bit here, I mean, you can't definitely make that out at all. So if you're sitting on this side of the table and then you're in a space way over here, maybe that space way up there, you're not gonna be able to read that. But you get to know what the spaces do, and the instructions on the spaces are pretty straightforward. Basically, go to the spot, roll a die, do a test, or possibly get some life or buy some items and different things like that. So you get to familiarize yourself with that pretty easily. Well, the first thing you're going to do is figure out which scenario you want to play here. Let's see, it comes with 5 of these. And your real basic scenario is, you can see here, you win the game. So what you do is you take this thing here, put it in the middle, and then basically with the most basic scenario, he's the first person to make it to the center wins. I would recommend playing that one time. It's not that exciting. The last couple of turns can be a little anticlimactic, but there's a lot of cool variety here in the other 4, where you go and then your character's there, maybe you're doing some tests, you have some different special rules that are going to affect the overall game, during the game, and so you have these different locations and things, and maybe a guy here, Corruptus, who's going to make the game relatively harder. Another character that you have to do battle with, this Chaos Manufactorum, which is an interesting little thing. So basically the theme of the game is that you're part of the Imperium in the 40k universe, and you're trying to figure out what happened here. This portal, this dark rift is open, and the Gene Stealers and those kind of guys, I'm not familiar with 40k that much, but those kind of guys are causing some havoc in here, and you've got to kind of go and investigate and exploit it for your personal gain in some ways. Now, after you've picked a scenario, here you have these cards here for these different characters, and there's quite a bit of different characters and stats and abilities and things, and actually pretty impressed with this actually, because it does kind of change the way that you're going to play the game. Some of the different stats you might try to go after, some of the different strategies, items versus other kinds of things, and like Fantasy Flight normally does, there's a lot of cool artwork and things like that there. So the cool part about these little character cards here is that each of them has one of these character busts here. Now I have not painted mine, but I actually do plan on trying to paint these because it's, not too much, of surface area, and it'd be kind of a nice thing to learn. And there's actually a series of YouTube videos. If you go to YouTube and search Relic miniatures, a guy has actually done sort of how-to videos on each one of these. So I may just go ahead and follow along with him there. So I'll just show you a couple more of these. Really cool looking. So you're actually going to put these on some pawns, which I'll show you in a second, and then move them around. Pretty nice detail here. Nice kind of a soft plastic type of thing. Here's one of your, I don't know what these guys are called. They remind me of the guys in StarCraft. Really cool looking miniatures though. So after randomly dealing these cards out, or maybe selecting them or drafting them or whatever you want to do, you have your starting character. You get your bust here, and like I said, you basically pop on one of these little stands here so that he can stand up on the board upright. You take some of these tokens here, and these are going to be used for a variety of things. You may get missions and things, and you just want to mark things or special abilities you may mark on your card. So these are sort of generic trackers for tracking a whole bunch of different things. And the first thing you're going to do here is take a look at the character's starting stats. So you got strength, willpower, cunning, and life. Well, that matches all of these dials up here. So you set the starting strength, starting willpower, cunning, and then your starting life there. So you're going to set all that up, and then you're going to take a look at this little peg here in your player color. Now this is going to track as you level up. So you can see you get up to level 12 there, and you can see here that as you level up you're going to get different rewards. So as the peg there moves up the tracks, you're going to get little bonuses in your strength and your willpower, new power cards, some extra money, and different things like that. And everybody has kind of a different sort of progression there. You can sort of plan out a little bit of your game based on how they're going to level up. And then of course you have the starting space on the board, and that's where you're going to put your little token there. You have an asset limit here and a power limit. Now the assets are going to be various weapons and relics and things that you're going to be carrying sort of your inventory limit. And then you have power cards, and that's going to change as you level up. You can be able to hold more power cards to play. And then you've also got a variety of special abilities. I'm not going to talk about those at all, but I will say that I do find them, pretty varied. Even the different, ways that you level up and different things like that. There's a lot to really kind of tinker with and explore here. That's really cool. It's just that, some games you get different character abilities and not really that different, but I think they've taken some time here. And I think there's 10 different characters, so lots of variety here for this. So how does a turn work in Relic? Well, very simply, you're going to roll a 6-sided die. Let's say we got a 1 there, not that exciting. But when you roll that, you can move left or right. You're going to start off on one of these outward spaces indicated by the starting space on your character card. And then you're going to move left or right. So in this case, I can say, I'll move here to this spot with a little yellow icon, or over here for a spot with 2 blue icons. Let's say I rolled a 5. I'd count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or go this way. So you have a choice basically between 2 spaces. You have to move the full amount of the die. Now there are some spots here in the corner, not this particular spot, but the other 3 spots in the corner, and they're going to have some different tests and things that you can do to move into that second realm there. And you can see here this is going to be a little bit harder. You've got areas where you have 3 icons and 2 red icons, and then some yellow here. And you can see actually with this board here, you kind of have all your yellow icons weighted, and then your blue icons there, and then your red icons. Now I'll explain what these icons mean, but you're basically going to move to a spot, resolve some encounters, maybe some hard-coded encounters, if you will, on a particular spot based on the text box that's there. You can also move out of the central area here. If you come and move around, you can go leak back out here and try to get some simple areas. You may get some different missions and things that require you to be at certain areas. So if you get in the middle here, you're going to want to sort of upgrade your guy and get better and things like that before you progress in the middle. So you're going to kind of want to go around the outside a little bit, but maybe sometimes you want to go back out and do something and go to a certain location. You can get out in this spot here. And then as you're moving around here, once you move into this spot here, you can move into the warp rifts, basically stop all your movement, and then you're going to check a couple of things. First thing you need is you have to have a relic. I'll explain what relics are in a second, but you have to have a relic before you get in there. Sometimes you want more than one, depending on how difficult you think the thing might be. Now the other thing here to notice at this spot, kind of in the vein of leveling up, is you're going to progress 1 space forward and then 1 additional space for each of the following conditions. You spend 8 influence, which is basically the money. You're level 8 or higher. And you immediately discard 8 trophy points. And trophy points are gained from killing monsters and other kinds of bad guys. So you can kind of see that you want to kind of have saved up some money, been at least level 8 or higher, and then also have basically some army trophies, or excuse me, monster trophies in reserve, so that way you can get a jump start and then move up that many more spaces. And then once you're in the middle here, instead of rolling a die, you're basically going to move 1 space every turn and then resolve that encounter. You can see there's no icons in here, but there's hard-coded encounters. So once you get in here, you kind of want to get a jump ahead, so that you've got, if somebody's kind of right behind you or close to you in level, then you get that much of a jump. Again, if you spend time getting the thing and somebody gets in there first, it's kind of neither here nor there, but that's kind of what this game is about, kind of pushing your luck, seeing what is the best approach, and really just kind of tinkering with that. So beyond the spots where they have the hard-coded text boxes, what are these different icons here? What kind of encounters are these going to be? Well, you can see here we've got 3 decks of cards for the 3 colors. So we've got the red deck, the blue deck, and the yellow deck. And so when you land on this spot, for example, you've got 2 blue icons. So when you land there, let's say we took our guy, we landed here, and then we're going to flip up 2 cards from the blue deck and put them down here. And again, the text is going to be relatively small. Not a big deal, obviously, if you're reading it close up, but you kind of have to read this aloud because not everybody else is going to really be able to tell once you put these down. So very simply, the number of icons is the number of that color card that you're going to flip up. And for the most part, the different colors match the different attributes of your character. So the strength deck is going to have mostly strength checks. The blue one will have mostly the blue wisdom checks, and so on with the yellow cunning there. Not always, but for the most part. Now there's going to be a variety of things here. There may be monsters, like I said, that you're going to encounter here. And you can see this is basically a test of your strength. So he has a strength of 4, and then let's say we had a strength of, I don't know, a 4 as well. And then we're each going to roll off. You can, hand the die to one of your opponents, and then you're going to roll off and see whoever, wins the encounter. There may be some special abilities that change how the encounter starts at the beginning, or what happens if you lose, etc., like that. So if you win the encounter with a monster, you're going to keep this card, and this is going to count towards your trophy points. Now, before we talk about trophy points, what happens if you lose the encounter? If you lose the encounter, you're going to lose 1 life. That's simple. You lose 1 life, and then the card will actually stay there. So next time when somebody comes there, they're going to have to encounter it as well. Now let's say we had a sort of a blue, let's call him a blue monster here. So we had this here, and then let's say you defeated 1 or something like that, and you come in here, and there's only 1 here. But, you get here and there's not 2 blue cards. You basically have to refill up to that. So any cards you don't defeat or acquire are going to stay there, and then you're going to fill back up to its sort of maximum there. So there's other things that can happen here. You can have events, which will happen first, and then monsters, which you may have to deal with, and then you might have encounters, and then you also will finally have assets here, and these you can acquire. There'll be allies, equipment, all kinds of good stuff that you're going to add to your character's abilities. And remember, the characters will have different asset limits as well. It's basically going to be moving around, encountering people, trying to get different equipment and things, level up your character, and all kinds of good stuff before you can get into the middle. Now, how do you specifically level up and then move up these different icons here? Well, at the end of your turn, you can spend 6 points worth of trophies. So let's say I had captured these here. Then I could spend these and basically go up 1 level. Well, this would be a waste. Obviously, I could just spend the 6 and go up, 1 level. I wouldn't want to spend the 4 because you don't get change or anything like that. So I can wait, maybe I can wait till I have, this here. So now we've got a 7 plus 6, so 13 points. I could spend those, basically wasting a point, and go up 2 levels at the end of my turn. So you're going to move around, encounter these, try to collect these for trophy points, use them to level up. As you level up, like I said, you're going to get strength, you're going to get different cards and money, and maybe activate special abilities and things like that. And then you're going to try to work your way in. Now, one thing that's really neat about this game is you have this deck here of power cards, and you can use these to substitute any of your die rolls in the game. So if I really wanted a 6 and I really wanted to succeed, on this particular challenge, or if I'm doing a skill test or something, then instead of rolling the die, I can play this for the number. And one thing I forgot to mention was when you roll a 6 or you use your power card as a 6, it's actually going to explode, and you can roll again and add to that. So if I roll a 6 and I roll another 6, then it'll explode again and again and again, and you just add a lot up. So that even happens when you use your power card. You can use a 4 or 6, and you say, well, what are these other power cards worth? Why would you have a 1? You can also use them for the special ability instead of the number. So that's kind of an interesting little dynamic there that you kind of see a lot of in games, sort of these dual-edged cards that you have to make a choice between one selection or another. So I really like that part of it. The other thing you can get to sort of mitigate some of your luck are these different weapons and items and things. There's a couple of spots on the board or different effects and things that will tell you to like draw some item cards and then purchase them. Here we've got the money in the game. This is influence. This is used for a couple of different things, but basically it's money for the most part. And you can see the influence costs there. So you can get these, and these will add to different abilities here. Now if you see these little sort of bladed numbers here, this will help you in a combat encounter of that color. You can see there, you know, you've got the 6 blue blades and the 3 blades. So whenever you're doing combat, this will help you. And then if you're doing a skill test of just a skill, not necessarily combat, then these little numbers without the blades will help you. And there's different special abilities and things that'll happen on here. Some of these have charges, so you put tokens on here, and they've only got a certain number of uses. So these are the items that you'll get. Now, during the game, you're always going to have one mission here, and these are the mission cards. And these are going to give you different little quests and things that you can do, go to different spots on the board, maybe be in the same spot as one of your opponents, defeat a certain type of enemy, all kinds of different things there. And so when you do that, you'll get a reward, but then you're going to want to keep it face down until you get 3 missions. And then once you get your 3rd mission that you've completed, then you can turn those in, and then you can get here these relics here. Now when you go to get a relic, you're always going to draw 2 and keep 1. And these are very powerful items that are just going to do all kinds of cool stuff. And you're going to start to feel very powerful once you get to this level, because you'll level up a little bit, have some items, and then now you got a relic and you're going in there and then you're whooping butt. And again, to get into this final central area, you need to have at least 1 relic to do that. But I found that you usually want at least 2. I mean, I'm not an expert, but that seems to be my experience. So finally, the last kind of card that you can get are these corruption cards, and these are pretty interesting. So different effects and things, different scenarios and cards, and sometimes actions by the other players will cause you to draw these corruption cards. And the way that does work is you're going to draw a card, and then you're going to look at this number here. And you're going to look at the total number of corruption that you have, including the one you just drew. And if it's equal to or less than this number here, then you're going to activate it. Well, let's say this is the first corruption I draw. It's a 4. I'm not going to activate it. I'm going to put it in front of me. Well, let's say the next corruption that I draw is this one here. So this is a 2. So this is now going to activate it. And then I'm going to do whatever it says. And sometimes it can be good. Sometimes it can be bad. And then, sometimes it'll tell you to turn it face down or leave it face up. Well, the thing is most of these characters here that you're going to get in the game, once you get 6 corruption, you're basically going to be set back quite a bit. It's basically like dying. Now, how does dying, or basically being vanquished versus being corrupted, work? So, the way that you die is when you go from 1 health and then you go to 0, and then you're going to die. You're going to lose some of your cards, not everything. It's not a giant setback. I've actually seen somebody die and come back and win the game. Or, sorry, not die, but get vanquished. You don't actually die. So it's not a huge setback. It's a little bit of a setback. It can be a major setback if you're very, in the middle, and then you get vanquished. You got to go all the way out and kind of work your way back in. But the other thing that's a little bit more drastic is being corrupted. And then once you do that, you basically have to get rid of your character card, draw a new one, and you get to keep some of the stuff that you had from the previous character. But you're going to start off basically at level 1 with a new character, which that is going to be a detriment. So that's kind of your drawbacks there. But I've seen people get vanquished. I haven't seen anybody get corrupted, but I've seen people get vanquished and come back and at least compete. And in one case actually win the game. So that's pretty much how the game works. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. Like I said at the beginning of the review, this is not a game I expected to like. And I played Talisman and I didn't really like it at all. It was kind of interesting for a few turns. But after a while I was like, boy, this is a pointless game. And this is one that I actually do enjoy. And the reason that I do enjoy it, definitely more than Talisman, and I think overall, is because it gives you a lot to kind of play with and tinker with. So So you've got the different characters that you can do, and they are very different. Some will be a little bit more like about evading, some will be a little bit more strength heavy, so they're going to be about fighting. Some people are going to be more reliant on equipment and things like that. So it gives you a lot to kind of tinker with, and there is a little bit of I don't know, decision making that you can have about where you're going on the board. So yeah, you've got to roll a die, but you've got, left or right to choose. That's it. And that's basically going to dictate your entire turn. So you may land on a spot that lets you get some life back, but you may also be forced to kind of go to a spot where there's a lot of monsters and you just know they're going to beat you down. But you can kind of use that to say, okay, well, I'm going to kind of stay away from that side of the board, and then go back to this side of the board, and then kind of really start to gear yourself towards a certain stat. So that way I know when I go to do the red encounters, then I'm going to have a really good shot at winning those encounters. And by doing that, then I can get some trophy points and, spend that stuff and get some influence maybe. And then sort of, gear your character that way. So you can really kind of tinker basically while you're playing Talisman. That's kind of what I, imagine. So the cool thing about Talisman in this game is you can kind of go back and forth. You have different encounters. It's a very lighthearted, kind of fun aspect. And it has a lot of those sort of, RPG-ish elements of leveling up and getting more powerful and dealing with, more and more powerful monsters, kind of in a way of like leveling up your character in a Zelda game or something. I mean, it's a horrible comparison. It's not like Zelda, but you get that really satisfying progression and sort of, arc of your character of going from level 1 to level 12. And that's cool. You feel like, a badass at the end of the game. So I also like the different scenarios and things and how they're going to kind of change up the game. One game will be more about the monsters and things, and one will be more about just the skills and the different stuff like that. And one of them is really geared to basically kind of corrupt everybody, so you've really got to manage that. And a lot of times in the game it'll give you a choice, like if you have an encounter, it'll say something like, oh, everybody in the game can take a corruption card and go up a level or something like that. And so at the beginning of the game you might be like, well, I'll take one of those. But then as you start to acquire more, you sort of start to toe that line of being corrupted and then, being set back quite a bit. So there's a lot of interesting kind of push your luck mechanisms built into a lot of the different sort of phases of the game. And stuff like that. And so it's a lot of the main thrust of the game, is getting in the middle, and it's like you want to be first because it's basically just a race game, but you don't want to get in there too early because you're just going to get smacked around and kicked back out, and then you're just going to be behind everybody again. But it makes for an interesting thing, and that's kind of why I don't really like that basic scenario, because you just get in and then win. And so the tests that in the center where you can't roll your die and you just move forward one, those aren't that strict. I mean, you want some life and stuff because you maybe know you're going to fail one or two of those and you're just going to move on anyway. So the one where you just race in and get there, it's like, okay, well, you were in the middle first. So we're just, we'll count the turns out in our head and you win. Whereas the other ones is a little bit more chancy. You gotta maybe power up a little bit more, and if somebody can come and sneak in behind you and maybe get a good roll, or maybe they're a little bit more powerful than you and they can defeat whatever that final encounter is. So there's a little bit sort of gauging your opponents there. I have played it with 4. It goes a little long with 4, I think. But that's just one of those things where the one time I played it with 4, basically 3 of us were in it and the one guy was kind of out of it. So basically the last handful of turns he just stepped out. He just stepped out of the game because there isn't a whole lot of player interaction. There is some, but there was nothing happening at the moment based on the different cards and missions and things that were out. So he just stepped out, and then we finished the game pretty quickly. So there's that, and I think with going 4 players, there's that. So I mean, he get really screwed by the. I mean, we were seriously cracking up by the way he was rolling the dice and the way we were rolling the dice against him. So, he maybe have been able to do some things different, but if you go into this game thinking it's going to be purely strategic, then I'd hesitate to even look at the game anyway. But I feel like most people would know that. But it's a really enjoyable game, fun and light, and it plays relatively quick. I played it with my son, like I said, and with rules explanation and everything, it was 2 hours to play, and he picked it up pretty quickly, and so it can go very quickly. And just be a super fun game. And that's one thing that Talisman doesn't have, is it can go several hours. But one thing that just doesn't have that Talisman has is that you can't do sort of player versus player. But I saw that an expansion was coming out. Part of the reason I'm making the video at this time, I'd actually bought the game, and then I think it was like 2 weeks later, if that, where I saw the expansion was announced. It looks really cool. The players can play as some of the Gene Stealer types of characters, and they can have sort of team versus team, or you can have some player versus player. It looks interesting because the one thing about player versus player that I'd be leery of is you're beating somebody down, and that would make the game take longer, like it does in Talisman, where it's like, oh, you know, Joel's winning, so everybody attack him. Okay, now everybody's at an even playing field, and then Billy starts to win, everybody attack him, and then the game just kind of gets real munchkin. From what I sense about the expansion, I don't think it's necessarily going to be like that, because it sounds like at least the two different teams are going to have different goals. So it's not like I'm just pulling you down. We're both racing to a goal, and then I'm sort of knocking you, and that's part of my goal is to hurt you, and part of your goal to hurt me, maybe. We'll see. But it looks interesting, so I'm probably going to pick it up. But I'd say if you hate Talisman like vehemently, you might still look at this. I really like Talisman. Now, if you hate this style of game, I would stay away from it. I mean, I'm one of the weird people that will play Relic and I'll play Kalis, no problem. So if you like this style of game but didn't like Talisman, I would say this is probably in that vein for you to look at. So anyway, Relic, thanks.